Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission meeting. This is our monthly meeting. We have today, September 17th, 2020, and we're going to go ahead and start at 6 o'clock. Um, at the moment, we have a few commissioners on the video call, and I believe we are expecting a few more. Let me go ahead and briefly let's just go ahead and start the roll call to make sure we're using our time wisely. At this point, I don't believe we have a quorum, but nevertheless, let's just go ahead and record who we have here. Um, Mary Dodoni, Madam Secretary, would you mind just conducting the roll call of the individuals that we have on the call right
Absolutely. Chairperson Roberto Veloso.
now? Here, present.
Okay. I acknowledge the recent resignation of um, Acting Chairwoman Georgia Noon Sherrod. Um, that brings, along with the recent resignation of Pastor John Watts, the number of commissioners down to 8, making 4 half. And I believe once Commissioner Fay Gaskin can join us. We will know whether 4 or 5 is our quorum number. Oluwatosin Agbola, I understand you're here. Tosin, could you unmute and just say your name, please? Tosin, I see your picture, so I know you're here, your static picture. If you could unmute and say your name for the record, that would be helpful. Um,
Let, let,
Commissioner
let me try to send him a message. Mary, will you go ahead and see if we can get Mohan Grover to check in? He's also on the telephone.
Yes, Commissioner Mohan Grover, could you unmute and just say your name for the record, please? Commissioner Mohan Grover, are you able to unmute and say your name for the record? We can see that you are here by telephone, but we would like to hear your name if possible. Commissioner Fay Gaspin, not with us yet. Commissioner Tony Strong Pratt, would you please say your name for the record?
Tony Pratt.
Thank you very much.
Mary, if I may, I think we are down. This is Alana speaking, the Human Relations Officer. Well, you know. I just wanted to interject for one quick second. I think we're down to 9 commissioners now. So,
You're right.
yeah, just wanted to correct the number. So, as
So
far as the
we
quorum.
need 5 for a quorum, and we now have them. Uh, Chairman Roberto Veloso has rejoined us, so the net change is -1. Um, is Commissioner Mark Apter with us at this point?
No, he's not, Mary. Also,
Commissioner Faye Gaskins is
she,
not with us yet.
she's not. She was going to try to join us late, but she had a work engagement and might not be able to today.
Correct.
And Commissioner Khalid Saeed is not with us yet, correct?
Correct.
I
Um,
will add names as people arrive, but I believe we stand with a quorum of
I think we
5 commissioners.
also, Tosin, if you can hear us, and Mohan, if you could hear us, we need you to unmute your telephone just to check in at the least. If you could do that at some point during our meeting, that would be great. But otherwise,
Commissioner Peterson is here too.
Thank you, Eugene.
uh,
Thank you, Commissioner
uh,
Peterson.
apologize, Eugene. Sorry about that. All right. All right. Thank you, Madam Secretary. It appears we have a quorum. We need to verify that Tosin is on the call, which we believe he is because we can see him. And we know based on the number used by Commissioner Mohan Grover that he's also listening in on the call. Let's go ahead and move on to the next item of business, which is the adoption of the agenda that was prepared and posted on the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission website. Did everyone get an opportunity to take a look at the agenda? Does anyone need extra time to review the agenda right now? Okay, hearing uh, no no indication that anyone needs time to review the agenda. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So
Commissioner
moved.
Mary, can I have a second?
Mary Didoni, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll go ahead and note that the agenda that was prepared has been adopted for today's meeting. Moving on to the next item of business, approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was on July 17th, 2020. These minutes were not ready until just a few minutes ago. If you all could check your email and take a moment to review the minutes, they're not terribly extensive, but I need you to review the minutes before we go ahead and see if we need to make any modifications, revisions, or if we can go ahead and adopt them as drafted. And for the sake of the audience, after we finalize the minutes and get them adopted, they will make their way onto the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission website. And these are for the meeting of July 22nd, 2020. All right. Do we have any comments regarding the minutes? Do we need any revisions or changes to them? Or do they accurately represent what transpired at our July 22nd meeting? Okay. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
I give a Tony Pratt.
Can you repeat that, Tony?
I give a motion to adopt the minutes.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We will adopt the July 17th, 2020 2020 meeting minutes as drafted, and they will be posted on the Human Relations Commission website. Moving to the next item of business, for the record, we had a number of resignations and one reinstatement. We had Commissioner John Watts and Commissioner Georgia Noon Sherrod, the former interim chair of the commission, stepped down. Pastor Watts, for personal reasons, and Commissioner Georgia Noon Sherrod is moving out of the county and under the county's Human Relations Commission enabling law. She could not continue to serve on the commission. I will note also that on Tuesday of this week, the County Council approved my appointment as chair of the Human Relations Commission per County Executive Stuart Pittman. Given that we're now down 2 commissioners, I believe that a process will be opened up so that interested individuals may submit their resumes, and I believe there may or may not be an application. It just may be a letter of interest, which will be submitted to the director. I believe I'm not sure I have her title correct. What is Kaylee's title? The
coordinator of boards and commissions.
Coordinator of boards and commissions. And what is, I forget Kaylee's last name.
Schultz.
Kaylee Schultz. My apologies, Kaylee. I believe you're probably listening in on the meeting tonight. So, so commissioners, please, if you know of interested individuals that have a passion for doing the kind of work that we do here on the commission and have the what you believe to be the right background, please direct them to Kaylee so that they can send them an email with a letter expressing interest in serving on the commission and a resume. And all right. Noting that, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is the Human Relations Officer update. Alana Dennis is our Human Relations Officer, and she's going to go ahead and talk about a number of items that she and the commission have been dealing with over the course of the last month. I believe the first item is the issue regarding the Ethics Commission, Alana.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much. We were going to have an ethics guest speaker tonight, Michael Batsares, the director of the Ethics Commission for Anne Arundel County. Um, as you all may know, or as you all do know, really, there's a requirement for both a financial disclosure form for all the commissioners appointed, as well as mandatory ethics training. The good news, I'll start with the good news. The majority of the commissioners have completed the ethics training. Thank you all for your cooperation. We really appreciate it. It's online training. And if folks needed any type of accommodation, of course, reasonable accommodation, we're more than willing to do so. And the Ethics Commission has been very flexible with regards to that, reasonable accommodations requests. However, we do have, and I will not name the names, 2 commissioners who have not completed the ethics training. So, in the interest of honesty and transparency, the position that the Ethics Commission director took was when everyone completes and finishes their training, ethics training, then he will do the briefing Q&A session that he wholeheartedly would like and to do and embrace and have that opportunity to speak to the commission and answer any additional questions they have. But in the interest of just being fair and equitable, I do encourage those commissioners who know who you are. You don't need to say it on this recorded time and moment, to please reach out to either myself or Roberto Veloso, because we will be more than willing to help redirect if you need any accommodations to complete that. But there will be a definitive deadline for this completion because it is required. So I will reach out to the commissioners who have not yet completed the ethics requirement to separately, Roberto and I, so that you all know the dates and the deadline that we must adhere to.
Alana, I just want to note for the record that while you were explaining the situation with the Ethics Commission, we have another commissioner joined, Commissioner Mark Apter. Can you just confirm your presence, Mark, by unmuting your microphone and saying?
Mark Apter, present and accounted for.
Thank you, Mark. Alana,
Commissioner Tosin has communicated with us via the chat, so he is also recorded as present.
Okay, wonderful. Alana, so if I understand correctly, just to confirm, assuming hopefully that we can get all the commissioners to complete the ethics training, Michael Bukharis from the ethics office will join us at our October meeting, correct?
I would just say it a different, slightly way. You are correct. With this following exception, all of the commissioners have completed the ethics training, with the exception of 2. So I just wanted to be, that transparent. We have 2 more people that need to be in compliance. Okay, thank you.
But once they're done, Michael Bukharis will come and speak with us.
Perfect. Yes, correct.
Great. Alana, I believe the next item on the agenda still is part of your update. If you could tell us a little bit about the development of a Human Relations Commission brochure.
We have a brochure, however, that needs to be approved by the commission, and we sent that previously. I can resend it again. We have it in both English and Spanish. I think the last time that we may have forwarded that brochure was, oh gosh, I don't know, a while back ago. So I'll resend it again, but that's pretty much of the update of that. Okay. I have to send, because I know that would be helpful for people to have, as it relates to people in the community, a copy of the brochure. So what I did, in conjunction with actually the help of Maria Casasco, who interpreted that in Spanish for us, was a draft brochure. It just needs final approval by the commissioners. So I'll resend it to you all.
Perfect. Madam Secretary, if you could, when you prepare the minutes for our meeting tonight, if you could make a note that let's place that issue on the agenda. at our next meeting, so we can review the brochure, make sure there are no changes that need to be made, and we can hopefully approve it at our next meeting.
So noted.
Thank you. Alana, there's still a few more items that we need you to cover. Next is the issue with respect to invitation to host healthy dialogues of race on October 22nd. And this is sort of an issue that overlaps with the issue of the Department of Justice CRS um,
Yes.
conversation we've been having. So I will let you explain the situation as it's two separate items on the agenda, but I'll let you discuss the situation as best you see fit.
Okay, so as background for not only the commissioners but any viewers who may be watching this meeting, the Human Relations Commission had at one point voted in consent. I think it was a majority vote, if not unanimous, to have healthy dialogues on race and community discussions, almost really truly as a continuation of our February 2020 hate bias forum. And additionally, with Faye Gaskins, who was unable to join right now, but I want to give her, acknowledgement respectfully, who is the head of the training subcommittee. We have been working on possible additional trainings, not only for the commissioners, but for the community at large, really. Some of the trainings maybe for the commissioners, some are for the community at large. So one of the things that I did, so I'm going to start with the positive. I always like to start with the positive. So let's start with the positive here, was reach out to the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights and in discussion with them about possible trainings or community discussions. One of the recommended trainings that they had available to start with is dimensions of diversity. And they gave some dates, which would include evening dates and or even a Saturday date, which this discussion, dimensions on diversity, it's like a 2-hour session, would or could potentially take place in October. They gave the dates, and Faye Gaskin asked for a Saturday date as a possibility. So the Saturday dates would be either October 4th or October 11th as possible dates. So around 2 hours this session, dimensions of diversity, and you can look on the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights online website on training and outreach and education, and it gives you a thorough description of it, because I don't want to, being mindful of the time, read the description. You can look it online on the state agency's regulatory website, and I think that would be very, very helpful. And the positive news is they are willing to agree. I don't know what the commission's preference is as far as the folks here tonight, whether it be October 4th or 11th. I do hope there will be a vote on that. But before I get into that, I want to tell you the unfortunate news. So I don't know, what do you want me to do, Roberta? Do you want to wait on the vote for that as far as or do you want me to go into the CRS stuff now? I wanted to give a positive start.
I understand, and thank you for doing that. Let's just pause for a moment. I see Commissioner Eugene Peterson has his hand raised, and I'm not sure if we should deal with this question now or wait. Eugene, you want to go ahead?
We can wait.
Okay, thank you.
So as I understand it, one of the options that we have in terms of moving forward is to participate in a training hosted by the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, and the dates are October 4th and October
11th. And it's called Dimensions of Diversity. And actually, often in the past, historically, past practice with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, they do actually reinforce and like that their trainings be open or visible to the community at large. So it's not, and actually, I don't know how we can do that as far as logistics, but I do think that they're very, they reinforce that importance, that they want the community to see and have the information as well, as does the commission here. So
I'm going to suggest, before we decide on either one of those training dates, that we discuss the other option that we were investigating with the Department of Justice.
All right.
Go ahead.
Let me go with that. So the Department of Justice, CRS, is a subdivision within the Department of Justice. And basically, we have, as the commissioners know, many of the commissioners here worked as a commission with the CRS uh, with regards, for example, as the hate crimes forums. They served as a guest speaker as part of the panel discussion. Then, of course, sadly, unfortunately, as we all are dealing throughout the world, came COVID-19. And so some of the commission's initiatives that we wanted to do to continue with the dialogue and continue to the next level as far as community outreach and engagement on these important topics was on a standstill with COVID-19, right? Everything was on lockdown. Well, eventually we got to a point where we said, can we at least, now that everybody's Zoom days and virtual platforms are available and accessible to many people, was could we possibly have a virtual type of training on dialogues on race? And this kind of came from a discussion, to be quite frank, that the county executive leadership team was talking about with regards healthy discussions on not just race, but healthy discussions in the midst of dealing with these three simultaneous pandemics, ranging from COVID-19 to the outcries for social justice, right, to end systemic racism, the health and economic disparities that people are dealing with within communities. So people are hurting both inside and out. So we were thinking about how to have healthy dialogues, not only internally within Anne Arundel County government, but externally within really the community at large. And with that said, we invited, again, Department of Justice, CRS, to dialogue with us. And they gave us some of the various program information that they have, including the Spirit program, where they work with local county governments to create, with the input of the community action plans on equity. And then also they had various programs such as like what we had hoped would happen, which is the dialogues on race training. In any event, on September 4th, I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. On September 4th, and I don't know fully, I cannot say fully if one deals with the other, but I'm just giving you the sequence of events. On September 4th, the White House came out with a White House memorandum. And the White House memorandum is, I think, 20-34. It dealt with diversity training. And as relates to the diversity training, there were some restrictions to their government agency entities as relates to diversity training. Have you all had an opportunity to see that? I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay. And I heard the yes.
Let's have the thumbs up from Commissioner Apter. So I believe.
Okay. So some of the training was, I'm trying to be measured, but factual. The restrictions in the diversity training memo, White House memo to their personnel management, which basically was to go out to the various federal agencies, had restrictions on the language, restrictions on what could be trained on the topic of diversity. And if anyone, Roberto, if you can take this moment just to kind of look it up real quick, that memo, if you want to. I don't know if you wanted to see anything about it.
Yeah, what I essentially the president appears to be taking the position with that memo that the federal government should not be making any efforts in terms of dealing with any training involving racial discrimination issues. And so that's obviously part of what we were working with issues of discrimination, race, and hate bias, and that's what the Department of Justice community. It's community relations service, correct, Alana? I believe that's what CRS is.
Yes. Sorry about that. Thank you, community relations service.
They've been dealing with those sorts of issues since 1965 when the Civil Rights Act was enacted. So we were hoping to get some support from them. They've actually come and conducted various programs in the county over the years in the city of Annapolis, and they've been very helpful. So we were kind of looking forward to this opportunity to have this training with them on September the 23rd, and also we're going to do a training with other community groups that we had been working with on September the 25th, but now both of those are basically, I don't believe they're going to happen. Am I correct, Alana?
Well, so after the September 4th memo, I received a call actually, and we had two dates. One was the September 23rd training date with the Human Relations Commission. And then we had another date, September 25th, with various folks, including the, what do you call it, conflict resolution folks, various folks within the community who were going to attend the training. The request or the directive was that they would have to cancel the September 25th date, and clearly I wasn't pleased, and I'm sure several folks here were not pleased to hear that. And then I asked, well, what about the Human Relations Commission's September 23rd training? And then I was informed that that is not a training, that cannot be called a training, and that can only be I would say a discussion or dialogues on race, and they cannot call it a training whatsoever, but that they're willing to compromise and come and have discussions with the Human Relations Commission, recognizing the Commission's role for the community. That's one of the discussions that we had. The Commission has an important role on these issues of discrimination, and I think these dialogues on race would be helpful for the Commission and the community at large in Anne Arundel County to hear, you know, how does this agency, or how do you guys facilitate those discussions? And so that was the compromise, that they would be willing to do the September 23rd session, which we're very appreciative of. I respect and appreciate that, but they had certain limitations, one being that they cannot record their meetings in that sense. And so, for example, with the Open Meetings Act, the requirements under the law that we as the Human Relations Commission has to be in compliance with, that could potentially be problematic. I mean, I guess if the federal agency is the one that's hosting the meeting in accordance to the platform that they would find acceptable, I think it's Adobe Connect, and they're sending that information out, I guess, to invitees, such as commissioners here. I guess that's their meeting that they're hosting. So, I mean, as the host, they have the control ultimately on how they host their meeting. So I get that. But I think in part, there may be a concern. Well, what about having this open for the community at large, and so on and so forth? Because clearly, if we host it as the Human Relations Commission, they cannot use Zoom. They cannot. It's not. They would not. My understanding, and this is my understanding that they would not be willing to do, unless I'm corrected by them at a later point, to do it as we do now with Arundel TV. So, there's some concerns, and it's not towards. Let me be clear for the record. The concerns that I think. I cannot speak for members who are doing their due diligence, doing their best, and to help the community with CRS. They do a lot of positive, good work. These are hardworking peer folks who care for the communities that they try to serve and help in these difficult, uncomfortable times with these very difficult issues. So I want to say that for the record for the employees within that department of CRS, Department of Justice. They have been helpful and given us many positive, informative, great, excellent suggestions. But I do believe that in the timing of this and the sequence, I do think, and this is my opinion, and we all have a right for our opinion, that the White House does have that memo did have some impact. So, and I'm referring to White House memo 34, and I wanted to give you all an opportunity to say something while I look up for that memo for a second, please.
Alana, if I could recap while you're doing that. So my understanding is, although Department of Justice, CRS, is willing to continue to work with us, the real possibility exists that doing so might be in violation of the Maryland Open Meetings Act. Is that
They
correct?
can work with us with the one exception. We're talking about the definition of the distinction of training versus discussion. They will work with us in the county on the equity plan, social community action plan. That's still not a problem whatsoever. That's a part of their job deliverables,
But
from
no,
my understanding. I'm talking about the dialogues on race, which originally my understanding was going to be a training, but they said we cannot have it as a training. This is a dialogue in which they facilitate community dialogues on race. Okay, so I just want to be
can
clear
you
with that.
confirm if we have those dialogues with the Department of Justice, whether the possibility exists that we might be in violation of the Maryland Open Meetings Act?
Yeah, I did. I will mention that. I mentioned that. I said there was a possibility. And then subsequent to my call, I actually reached out to our Office of Law. And so that's something that other commissioners for their legal guidance on that question.
All right.
So there are various aspects of this, and I can give you all the feedback. Or Roberto, did you want to do a summation of what the Office of Law feedback was with regards to this? I'm asking.
I think all we really need to know right now is that there may be issues proceeding with dialogue with the Department of Justice, because we may end up being in violation of the Maryland Open Meetings Act.
Right, that was a part of that was the concern. Well, so the feedback is, although obviously if they are the host, they being the Department of Justice CRS, the host of the dialogues, how they host their program and who they invite, that's their prerogative, that's their choice. But in the interest of transparency and honesty, I mean, if as we originally had planned the commission of having this as a part of Anne Arundel County's commission initiatives, diversity initiatives or equity initiatives, from the commission's point or standpoint, then that would be a potential concern. That is a concern about the violation. We cannot violate the Open Meetings Act. That is correct.
I would like to open up the floor for discussion, but before I do so, for the sake of the audience that's watching, I just want to give a little bit of a brief background in case this has gotten a little bit confusing. That the reason the commission is pursuing these trainings is as a consequence of the report issued by the Maryland State Police last year, finding that Anne Arundel County had the largest number of hate bias incidents of any county in Maryland. That led to the hate bias conference that we had at Anne Arundel Community College back in February. And this is a follow-up to that. We wanted to train the commissioners so that we could better go out into the community and engage the community with respect to the issues that they're having related to hate and bias incidents and what we could do about it to try to deal with the situation. With that bit of background, I'm going to open up the floor. Who wants to go first?
I'd be happy to.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Apter. My point of view on this is that, CRS, some of their individuals, consider themselves in a positive way part of the deep state. And we are to kind of adhere to their restrictions where they're going to get in trouble with the White House. And there are lots of other ways in which we can get training on this issue. I would say, don't endanger our requirements of having open meetings, et cetera, to satisfy the CRS's requirements of not having anything open. So my feeling is that, if they can't adhere to our rules, then we should just move on and do what we're going to be doing in terms of training without them.
Thank you, Commissioner Apter. Eugene, do you mind if I let Mary go next? I feel she's got many words she needs to get out.
That's fine.
Thank you. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to listen again to our last meeting. And I want to bring back what at that time, Commissioner Georgia Noon-Sherrod shared with us. We have a responsibility to step into these dialogues, and we expect them to get more intense. we need to learn more. I have the deepest respect for the CRS, the persons with whom we've worked there. They have knowledge from which we could benefit if they offer us an opportunity as individuals to expand our abilities by being in discussion with them and sharing what they've learned with us. That is genuinely, I believe, a dialogue rather than a training. And if we need to have official training, we should set that up as a meeting, perhaps with the um, Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, and that would be subject to the Open Meetings Act, and then have an additional opportunity with CRS to take advantage of the information they're willing to share with us. Non-mandatory, but for those of us who wish to better prepare ourselves.
Thank you, Commissioner Dodoni. Commissioner Peterson, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I tend to agree with Mark that it's very problematic that CRS cannot agree because of presidential edict, as I see it, to really share their resources with the whole community. I don't see any value with us meeting with them, and the only way I could see we could do it is not as a commission, groups of maybe 2 or 3. It's very inefficient. We can't have the dialogue we want to have because of the Open Meetings Act. I think we violate the Open Meetings Act if we uh, do anything other than get written and individual conversation with them, maybe with the chair and some other members of the committee. But I just think at this point in time, we need to say, while we respect you, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to take another tack, as Mark said.
Any other commissioners have any comments they want to make? Commissioner Tony Pratt? Okay.
Can I ask you a quick question?
I agree with Mark and Eugene.
Oh,
Go ahead,
100%. Hello. I agree with Mark and Eugene.
I'm sorry, one more time.
I agree with Mark and Eugene.
Okay.
thank you, Commissioner Pratt. Commissioner, as we say, Commissioner Roberto Velosa, may I just, I found the section that, because I do think it's helpful for people. This is, and I'm not suggesting that this is the totality. If this is their protocol, CRS, then so be it. But there was a memo 2034, and the one section of it I just wanted to highlight, if that's okay.
No, one second. Do you have this on your screen? Can we do a screen share, or is this?
I don't have it on my screen. I'm actually that's a good point. We should have thought about that. I don't have it on my screen. I'm sorry.
Go ahead and read the section, the relevant section.
Oh, I thought that would have been good. My apologies. The section that I'm reading, though, it's actually M memorandum -20-34. It was dated September 4th, 2020. And basically, it was from the White House president's attention that the executive branch agencies have spent taxpayer dollars to date on training government workers. And they were, in this memo, it refers to the training as divisive anti-American propaganda. And further down, and I'm not going to read the entire memo, it talks about, for example, what it says here. The president has directed this particular director of the Office of Management and Budget to ensure that federal agencies cease and desist from using the taxpayers' dollars to fund these divisive, un-American propaganda training sessions. Accordingly to that end, the Office of Management and Budget will shortly issue more detailed guidance on implementing the president's directive. In the meantime, all agencies are directed to begin to identify all contracts and other agency spending related to any training on critical, quote, critical race theory, quote, white privilege, or end quote, or any other training or propaganda effort that teaches or suggests that one, that the United States is inherently racist or evil country, or two, that any race or ethnicity is inherently racist or evil. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Although diversity training, I must be clear for the record, is never, ever have I seen any diversity training that would suggest in any aspect of diversity and equity inclusion lump sum and put some sort of generic inherent evil or put on one race or another some derogatory context of somebody. Diversity, equity, inclusion training is just about that mindfulness, inclusive equity, talking about, and when folks in the diversity, equity, inclusion arena within the civil rights world talk about white privilege, I want to give you all an example, and this is an example that's shared with me, and it's a very quick one because I think it was a meaningful one. It was an example provided to me by a police officer in our county, and who will be, I'm going to respect the anonymity, but it was a Caucasian white police officer who said, Alana, sometimes I had to question, what does this mean, white privilege? Because I did not grow, and many folks did not grow with an semblance of a silver spoon in our hands. I did not come from privilege. What does that mean? And he said, I had to think about it. And I spoke to my Black police officer. And in speaking to my Black police officer, my colleague, my friend, we have each other's back, as we engage in public safety. He says, I was talking to him and asking him his thoughts on it. And as he shared with me, and he was telling me, I'm going for a run. I'm going for a run, jogging. And he said, let me give you an example. As I went for this run, I had my sweatshirt on and my hoodie and, and everything. And then all of a sudden I froze. This is the Black officer. And he said, oh, I better go back and change my clothes. I don't want to go out there. I need to be mindful of this. And so in that moment, the white police officer asked him why. And he said, because if something goes down, they're not looking at me as a Black law enforcement sworn police officer. They're looking, sometimes if people have their what? Unconscious bias. They're looking at other aspects, as we all know, where people can be running and be killed just for a jog. He had to go and think about what he had on. And that in that moment, the white police officer said to me, Alana, in that moment, as my colleague, as my friend shared with me that moment, that he literally had to think about what he had on to just go for a simple jog. Something that I have had the privilege as a white man in America to never think about. I got it in that moment. You see, sometimes people erroneously make assumptions as to what the meaning of certain words may be. And that's why, quite frankly, having authentic, honest, real dialogue, not name calling, not making assumptions about one or each other, but authentic, honest dialogue is so crucial if we're truly going to end systemic injustices. That's all I had to say. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Alana. Real quick, I just want to note for the record that we had Commissioner Khaled Syed just join us via telephone. Khaled, can you unmute yourself for 1 second just to check in with us and say hello? We're going to have to talk to the tech folks for whatever reason. I don't know why the folks that are calling in can't seem to unmute themselves. Nevertheless, getting back to the discussion at hand, dear Commission, I have a proposal for us to consider. Given the issues that exist where we try to proceed engaging with DOJ CRS at this point, I would recommend that we tell them that we will be in dialogue with them in the future. But for now, why don't we proceed with scheduling some training with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights? We have 2 proposed dates at the moment that they've given us. I just want to I don't want to necessarily vote on this, but I just want to poll and open up the floor for discussion, see what what my fellow commissioners think.
I think that's a fine idea. I'd use the second date, just giving them and us a little bit more time to prepare.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any
I
comment?
concur with Mark.
I wouldn't be able to make either one of those dates because I have a program that I'm facilitating every Saturday starting the 26th until November 14th.
Okay. Commissioner Pratt, it is going to be recorded if we do it with CRS, so there would be the opportunity for you to watch the training at a later time. I will note that for the record.
Okay.
Can if no
Can
one,
you repeat the dates, please?
Alana, could you tell us the dates again?
The two dates that were proffered for the Saturday was October 4th and October 11th.
I'm looking at my calendar, and I've got October 4th as a Sunday. Maybe I'm
I'm
wrong.
sorry, he may have misspoke. I'm reading the email, but let me go here. He said it's a Saturday. So is it October? In the written email, he references October 4th, but he meant to say, I'm sure, October 3rd. And even though he said October 11th, clearly the Saturdays are the 3rd and the 10th. But the email referenced the 4th and the 11th.
Would these be morning or afternoon sessions?
I believe that they would be morning sessions. He did not specify, so it appears that he is flexible. But if the commission has a preference, please let me know, and I'll let the person know. He was going to attend or be present if needed for tonight, but he had a conflict, another meeting that he had to attend. He's also available, the facilitator with the Training and Outreach Department of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. He's also available for training sessions during the evening as well. Evenings.
I'm going to request, see if we can get a motion from the floor to continue our dialogue with DOJ CRS, but to put it off for a little while we focus on trying to arrange for some training with the Maryland Commission for Civil Rights. Why don't, after today's meeting, let's confirm the dates that they've suggested to us and try to find a date that's most agreeable to all the commissioners' schedules. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I believe the aye.
That was very quick. Here's an extra eye.
Okay, I think the ayes have it. So Alana, if you could go ahead and touch base with the Department of Justice, CRS, please convey to them how much we appreciate their work and all their help, especially over the last several months and when we put on the Hate Bias Conference. If possible, I would be great if we could continue to remain in contact with them. But maybe we could check in a month or two with them. But for now, maybe we can proceed with trying to make the arrangements for the training with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights.
I will communicate that. They have been, the people that I've worked with CRS in agreement have been very professional and excellent and helpful, and would like to continue working with the county and the commission on their SPIRIT program, which is not a training, it's an community action plan. So that would be, I will relay that to them. And if I may, commissioners, there are other dates in October that he is available, like I said, in the evening. If that does not work for you, the Saturdays, I heard what Commissioner Pratt said. She's unavailable on Saturdays. So I know that Saturdays was one of the options that Commissioner Faye Gaskins had asked for, but evening times as well would be, and if I may, for the record, Mary, October 7th, October 8th, October 15th, and October 21st.
Alana, could I suggest that we try to discuss the dates offline by email? I don't have my calendar that has all my events handy. So maybe we could take this conversation outside the meeting today and finalize the date by email. I can't hear you. You're muted, Alana.
Yes, that is fine. We just have to, I know that he would like the sooner than later for the commission to let him know
Yes.
which date that we want to firm up for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Alana, we still have a few more items that we need your update on. I believe the next item on the agenda is the issue of the County Diversity Council.
Oh yes, thank you. The Diversity Council, as several of you may know, but I'm just saying, an excellent group of people. It is Anne Arundel County government under County Executive Pittman's first interagency departmental diversity council that we're aware of, and they consist of majority county government employees, a diverse group of people from all the various agencies and departments within Anne Arundel County government. It's an internal workforce council. It's an advisory group, and they pulled up their sleeves and got some work done and made some preliminary reports and recommendations to the county executive and the leadership team. And we're just very helpful. There are some members who are of the Diversity Council who are from the, I guess, quasi agency. For example, we have representatives from Youth Partnership, Mental Health Agency, Health Department, Public Works, Police Department, Fire Department, just the whole gambit and range. And we've been meeting since, I believe, July of what are we in 2020, so a year ago. This is our year halfway mark, and they will be meeting until May of 2021. So we have a few more sessions left, but we did make a preliminary report, and in that report, in very quick, very brief, abbreviated version of it, is there were several recommendations for diversity, equity, and inclusion within the county government workforce. We're talking about recommendations for policy and various other items, including hopefully a review as for consideration by the county executive leadership of how to restructure, if, and of course this is up to the leadership to do, but possibilities about even restructuring an office of equity or human relations. So I just wanted to put that out there and just give that. Thank you for the opportunity to promote and acknowledge their hard work. I know the commission is for the community at large, and the Diversity Council is really for the workforce of government workers. But thank you for giving that shout out to them.
Thank you, Alana. Do we have any questions from the commissioners regarding what Alana reported regarding the Diversity Council? Okay. Alana, the next item on the agenda is still under your update. The next thing is the Anne Arundel County Police Department update on mediation of hate bias cases.
Yeah, just wanted to let folks know that although we have been, for unfortunately, sadly, a good portion of this 2020 year, it seems like on lockdown, much of it at points, and going through the various phases due to the pandemic of COVID-19. The reality is, sadly, there's still hate bias incidents still occurring within our communities in Anne Arundel County. Now, they have reduced, the good news, they have reduced in comparison to 2019 and 2018. Remember, the hate bias forum was from the 2018 report. 2019 Maryland State Police report, I don't believe, has come out yet. Whether our county numbers will be the same, no, they may be slightly higher from 2019, but clearly 2020, because of the pandemic, social distancing, the numbers are down, but we still have hate bias incidents. So what we've been doing, if at all possible, when appropriate, we have, with certain cases, clearly not all cases is a case-by-case situation, not all cases would mediation be appropriate, but in some instances, when there's neighbor to neighbor, for example, and people are living right next door to each other. Why can't we make an effort to try to see if we can bring folks together? And so several are cases that are in those scenarios. When applicable, mediation is voluntary, but we have been communicating, the protocol is with the chain of command in the police department. And obviously, if they also agree that this may be appropriate for mediation, then we refer it to the Anne Arundel Conflict Resolution Center. And there have been several cases that we have referred to the Anne Arundel County Conflict Resolution Center under the executive director of our former interim chairperson, Georgia Noon Sherrod. And Rachel Brower is, I believe, the case manager, but Georgia was or is still the executive director. We've had some successful mediations. I'm happy to report that, of people trying to work things out. And this again goes back to why and what I know I'm speaking to the choir here amongst the commissioners, why it's so important to have honest, authentic dialogues. Because I do believe sometimes out of conflict can come potential resolution. But in order to get to resolution, there has to be an semblance of dialogue and communication. And so the mediations, I'm thankful, and that was my update on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Commissioners, any questions regarding that?
I'd like to refer back to the earlier comments Alana made on diversity. I just participated with my college, all the alumni, and I'm a member of one of the funding and outreach committees. We had a Title IX training, and they have a civil rights office at the college, and the president of the college um, formed that civil rights office to deal with these particular concerns. And I think it's high time for us as a Human Relations Commission to think about maybe in terms of the recommendations that we make to the county executive, that he consider forming a civil rights office in the county separate from the law office that would focus on issues like Title VII covers employees, Title IX covers all kind of issues relating to discrimination, and I think you need something like that in addition to all these dialogues to get action done. And I'll leave it at that.
I'm planning on starting compiling data and information for our annual report, which we turn into the county executive and the county council on January 31st. And I think this is a serious suggestion we should consider, explore, and continue to have further dialogue on. Certainly at this point in time, it's my intention to include that in the draft report, and we can have a discussion on the draft report at a future meeting and discuss this issue at further length. But I think I think it's a good idea, and it's something that we may be able to get behind. But again, let's keep discussing this issue, but at another meeting when we can even just put it on the agenda and set aside some time to get in depth on this particular issue. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Mary.
And not on this topic, but for the record, going back to item 6C within this set of Human Relations Officers report. Item C is invitation to host healthy dialogues on race, October 22nd, 2020. Perhaps I misunderstood. Was that the discussion around the DOJ, CRS, or is that a separate issue that somehow I didn't realize we discussed?
Go ahead, Alana, you're on mute.
Thank you. So thank you for that clarification or that question, so I can clarify rather. The original meeting with CRS for the dialogues on race proffered and agreed upon originally by CRS was for the Human Relations the evening of September 23rd. The October date that you reference comes to the following aspect. There has been a Healthy Dialogues group that consists of various departmental folks, leaders within their department, health departments, police, fire, mental health agency, mediation, actually the mediation center with the state's attorney's office. And this was something that we had talked from the county executive leadership about trying to see if we can have some sort of dialogues, keep the momentum, the discussions, the authentic discussions going on, and also sharing of information, tips, tools, and resources. So remember there were 3 groups that we were, or subcommittees. I think also Roberto serves on this, and and Eugene serves on this group, and formerly Commissioner Georgia Noon-Sherrod served on the group as well when she was serving on the commission. But one of the things that we were trying to do is have 3 subcommittee groups. One was on conflict resolution and active listening. It would consist of mediators, the director of the Mediation Center, Jocelyn Julian, with the State's Attorney's Office, mediators within Conflict Resolution Center, sharing their tips, tools on conflict resolution and active listening, because people are hurting in the communities and often are asking, hey, if we're, with everything on heightened emotions, heightened everything, we see all this going on in our world. How can we engage in honest, authentic dialogue without something escalating? So share with us some tips and tools on that. So that was one of the things that we talked about, trying to have a platform, panel discussion on that topic. That's one topic, conflict resolution and active listening. Another topic was de-escalation. Many folks may know that law enforcement are often trained, sworn police officers, on de-escalation. One of the things that our county resources have, we have folks in the county that go out into the community and they can share some tips and tools on de-escalation. And not many people know about that, but it's very helpful, especially in today's turbulent, concerning times. So another topic was dealing with mental health, wellness. Health, wellness. People are stressed. I hear people call me up. I can't sleep. I'm not talking about just people with everything that's going on, the anxiety, the stress, the trauma, of just even witnessing something, even if one is not directly experiencing it, but witnessing it and watching it on TV. So the question is, hey, what type of mental health resources are out there, for example, to community members, that people may not necessarily know about. So a big component of this is sharing information. And then the last one is having, and it's not the last, but it's just, I'm just giving it in no particular order. But the last subcommittee group was the subcommittee on healthy dialogues on race. And sometimes going back to, what we said in originally, sometimes these uncomfortable discussions, sometimes people don't want to have them. But it's as though, as I always say, this: if we haven't, I have several family members who are survivors of breast cancer survivors, and my own mother. And one of the things she always taught me growing up is, if there's a problem, you cannot ignore it. You cannot put your head in the sand and pretend that it's not there. So when, for example, she discovered that she had breast cancer, she had to deal with it head on. And a part of dealing with this is, in order to eradicate the illness and to fight and to become a survivor, is of this unfortunate illness that she had and disease, was to, again, deal with it head on. Similarly with discussions on racism. If we ignore it, does that help the problem? No. Do we dwell on it as if we haven't made progress? No. But we wanted to have discussions on racism and talk about various things, and invite people in the community to talk and give their feedback. And that was a part of the discussion, was whether or not by the subcommittee on healthy dialogues on race, whether or not the commission wanted to be a sponsor, because it falls in your lane, as far as issues of potential discrimination, whether or not the Human Relations Commission wanted to be a sponsor of the Healthy Dialogues series, which would include dialogues on race, which would include dialogues on maybe inviting the subcommittee on mediation, active listening, and to be a guest speaker, a learning series, a lecture series. I don't know what you would call it, learning series or lecture series, but just a healthy dialogue, a discussion, where we would invite maybe the police officers, for example, and the social workers who do the de-escalation training, to come and show and share with this commission and share with the community at large what they offer and what they do. And so we wanted to see whether the Human Relations Commission, and I say we because former Commissioner Georgia Noon and Sherrod and I talked about this. Is that this may be something that could be very meaningful and helpful for the community at large if the commission is willing to step in and take the, maybe some of the lead on some of these community discussions. And I think that would be helpful if we invite some of those folks on that healthy dialogues group, and lift the weight, kind of, so to speak, because they have a lot on their plate in their respective agencies. If we kind of invite them, on various mutually convenient dates, that we may schedule, that's convenient with everyone's schedule. So that led to, and Roberto and I mentioned this, I believe also Eugene Peterson and I were talking about this as well, was whether the commission would be willing to have not only its monthly regularly scheduled meeting, but it's maybe another meeting each month. And I don't know if you would call it community discussion or just dialogues where you invite these guest speakers, but people want their thirst for more is and request for more is what they're asking, more information. And so Roberto, and I don't know whoever else. I hope I answered the question, but thank you. Good catch, Mary. They get Commissioner Dodone. Thank you so much.
Alana,
Thank you.
as a point of clarification, if my recollection is that we were considering taking our meeting on October 22nd and turning it into a healthy dialogue session where we would have various breakout groups.
Right.
But it was contingent upon doing the Department of Justice CRS training, I thought. But
well, we were thinking about, there were a couple of different that we talked. Department of Justice was September 23rd, not October. So that's number one. CRS was September. But for the October dates, that related to the healthy dialogues on race. And we wanted to have, because one of the things was picking a date and what platform we do, and whether we would do it through the Human Relations Commission or whether it would be, maybe through the county. We don't know, which would be. And then of course it made sense to do the dialogues on race through the Human Relations Commission, especially since it's community based. So one of the discussions was having it at the next October regularly scheduled meeting. But this is the problem. Because we had to reschedule our training on ethics, remember, in the beginning of this meeting, the director is available, from my understanding, for the October meeting. That's one. So we've had to move him from today's date where he was going to be, but for the exception that there were two commissioners who had not completed the ethics training. So now he is willing to do that training in October at the regularly scheduled meeting. But then there's problem number two, which is not a problem, but I'm just going to tell you, this is what you're going to have to deal with as far as time restraints that we had as the commissioner. The request was made of me to ask Office of Law for guidance to the Human Relations Commission on legal guidance as far as how to have hearings, and the investigation proceedings, procedural guidance, right? And to the commission. Office of Law said, yes, we will provide that. They are available for the October meeting, the regularly scheduled October meeting. So now you have two people, Office of Law, who's available to present. They said 20 minutes it would take for them. Then you have the Director of Ethics who's available to answer in a brief Q&A some questions that the commissioners may have, any additional questions they may have. So that may take, let's say, another 20 minutes. Let's even give it 30 minutes. But then there's a third constraint that we have at that October meeting. And I know that Commissioner Faye Gaskin had a conflict, but I want to represent the efforts and due diligence that she's made. And that's with regards to the housing training, because this commission has those housing subpoena powers. Knock on wood right now, we don't have many housing cases, but the reality is that she had invited a guest speaker to talk about housing. And so there's 3 speakers at that next October meeting. So I don't think that October regularly scheduled meeting would be the one to have the healthy dialogues on race subcommittee discussion, panel discussion, or breakout group discussion that was visualized with our dialogue with Georgia.
Thank you, Alana. But again, just help clarify this in my mind. I thought for some reason that the folks that are involved in the healthy dialogues discussion groups were waiting for us to finish up the training with the Department of Justice. Is that not the case?
No,
Okay.
they're in the no. They were just those other subcommittees. Mental health and wellness, health department on their dialogue, on the mediation, conflict, active listening, and de-escalation subcommittee. They were trying to just uh, uh, wrap their arms or minds around as far as how they would structure what information would be most helpful for the community. And so they wanted to make sure they were thoughtful and gave an semblance of substance to what they would create. So they first had to figure out the program, and then in turn figure out what mutually convenient dates they may have available. For example, I think there was a date in middle October. The mediation group had said, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, October 14th. They may be available. So if, for example, the Human Relations Commission here says, well, you know what, since they are available to start with their program on October 14th, then we can have a separate date potentially. I don't know if you want to call it a discussion date or a training date. I don't know what you would want to call it, healthy dialogues date, but and they be the first panel, the mediation active conflict. They call it conflict resolution / active listening panel discussion.
Let me make the suggestion. I think we need to have a discussion. I am not sure if we should do this right now, or if we should put it on as an agenda item for our October meeting. A question of what do we want to do as a commission to further facilitate the conversation with the citizens and residents of Anne Arundel County. I think the dialogue discussion is an excellent idea. Um, the question is, when do we want to participate with them and kind of take the lead in terms of hosting those discussions and conversations, number one. And if we want to do that, how do we want to do it? For instance, there was one proposal by our former chair, Georgia Noon Sherrod, that we have one meeting where we have breakout groups into the three subcommittee group topics that we have. That's certainly one option. The other option would be to just tackle one topic each month. I am not certain. Actually, I feel kind of strongly that we should not attempt to do this at our regular business meeting, because we always have business we need to tend to. I would suggest that perhaps we want to have a discussion as to whether we want to set up another monthly meeting where we go ahead and deal with these issues. So that being said, I'd like to open up the floor for discussion to see if, do we want to talk about this and get into more details today, or do we want to put it on the agenda for our meeting next month? Keep in mind that our agenda for next month is starting to get a little crowded.
And if I may, just for clarification, I know you're about to dialogue amongst the commissioners. Tomorrow, I am having a meeting tomorrow early afternoon with the Healthy Dialogues group. So if you all, as commissioners, have any input that I could share with that meeting, that would be most helpful and efficient. So that if, for example, you decide as a body, which I believe there was a vote, if I'm not mistaken, on the Healthy Dialogues, Roberto, on race discussion, but I'm not quite sure. I don't recall, Mary, if that was just on the race component, or but it may not have been on the whole scheme of having a panel discussion on the various other topics that I mentioned, So I think there does need to be clarity on that.
First question I would propose we deal with is, do we try to spend some time and see if we can get an idea of how to proceed today, or put it off to next month? I feel time is of the essence, so if we could make some progress today, I think that would be helpful.
We're still 7:15. We're still early.
Eugene.
Yes. If we want to make some progress today, I think that we shouldn't try to do this in our meetings. We should try to set up a separate session. I'm in favor of that, and I think we should limit it to probably an hour and a half, maybe an hour, because I think people tend to fall off with all the talking heads and the to be
Eugene,
direct and simple point. And I don't know if we want to call it healthy dialogues. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with basically doing the county's job for it. So basically, I don't know what we want to call it, but I think that we need to follow up. It could be a follow up to the hate bias uh, uh, information that we collected, and we've never really analyzed that information, said what we're going to do with it. So that could be something we might want to do. And so I just think it should be limited again to an hour to an hour and a half at the most. And I'd like to see if we couldn't if make that part of our ongoing agenda, but separate and distinct from what the county's doing internally with the healthy dialogues.
any other comments? Go ahead, Nate.
Let me
Yeah,
just
I'd have one. I I believe that our primary role is to provide, as is currently legislated, is to provide an opportunity for people who felt that they are not being treated well vis-a-vis diversity issues in the housing area. And I think Alana has indicated that she hasn't received any complaints for us to deal with. And I think our primary role is to get the word out that that's what we're here for and do that. And I think other things which are dealt with by other entities uh, will have a tendency to um, overshadow our primary purpose. So I'm uh, I'm for saying I'm basically saying let's stick with our primary reason for existing.
Thank you, Commissioner Apter. Commissioner Doney, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Um, I have two thoughts that I want to share on this. The first is how much time this is going to take. If we use the hate crime bias form as an example, I know there were some people. Alana was was the heavy lifter, but there are other people involved in other parts of the community that spent at least 40 to 60 hours in preparation for that, and then follow up. That was a in person meeting and had its own issues. So the lifting may be different here. But the lifting on a Zoom meeting is we're going to have to have a different kind of facilitation by some very skillful Zoom meeting facilitators. I don't know if we're ready to do that yet. Um, I'm also very unclear on what the ask is of us. So maybe it's a question of what is it we're volunteering to do. And what I heard is one of the things we're volunteering to do is to be the bedrock host for these ongoing discussions. Again,
right.
that's a lot of time, but it's closely related to equity. And that's the other thing I want to bring up. Our job is equity in Anne Arundel County.
Correct.
I have the greatest respect for what my fellow commissioners have said about maybe this isn't our primary lift. Maybe it's someone else's primary lift. And then, just as a side note, the agenda says scheduling something for October 22nd. If I understand that correctly, that was an intention to use our next board meeting, commission meeting for that. I believe that's not going to be possible. But is there
Right.
an urgency? Is there that kind of an urgency around it getting the first of these meetings hosted?
Mhm. I think, if I may, Roberto, just to clarify, and I know that the commission has had those discussions before regarding what is the role of the Human Relations Commission. And I think you do need to jump in, Roberto, at a certain point. And I respectfully understand what Commissioner Apter was saying, that there is clearly a definitive, as well as everybody here, but let me just first go with Commissioner Apter. Clearly, there's a definitive component of the Human Relations Commission's um, uh, responsibilities dealing with housing discrimination. That is clear. That is clear. There's no confusion about that. The reality is we haven't really gotten complaints that the issues that have come forward have been able to be resolved through other mechanisms, whether it be mediation or whatever the case may be, or that they just didn't fall under the discrimination component of the regulatory aspect of the commission's role and duties. So they may not have exactly fall under the scope of the commission's duties. So there has been that type of thing. But I do think, and I know that this was a discussion for the interest of transparency, and Roberto knows this as well. And just to refresh other commissioners' memories about this, I know that Mary is correct because there was discussion and about the role of the Human Relations Commission being similar to on these issues of equity, diversity, inclusion, on these general issues of discrimination
It's very
above
clear.
and beyond, right, above and beyond housing, that I
Yes.
recall commissioners wanted to have, maybe have the opportunity to have community engagement, community dialogue, go within their respective districts to engage. And I know, sadly, unfortunately, we all have to deal with the reality of social distancing in this pandemic of COVID-19, which put a halt on everything. But I vividly remember this being a discussion amongst the body here, and I just want to, in alignment with Mary, just refresh that, at least my recollection. And I don't know what the outcome was with that. And I know that Roberto and Mary, you attended some county council meetings. I don't know if there were some changes. If you can just kind of.
It's always been in there. There were changes made um, in the bill that created the commission, but persistent from the first bill was our involvement in public discourse around equity issues. That has always been there. Roberto, am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, you are. So, Alana, if you could refresh my recollection, can you
Mhm.
remind me again what we have lined up in terms of the housing training for the October 22nd meeting?
Right.
I can't recall what's going to be involved with that.
This was oh gosh, a trainer actually, and I'd have to look it up. The email from Commissioner Faye Gaskins. She
If
had
you recall,
invited
that's okay.
a guest speaker. She had invited a guest speaker from one of the agencies, and I to and this person has been actually on the tentative, not official, but the tentative agenda since a couple of months ago. So I think, out of respect, and if I were, I mean, I would want Commissioner Fay to give her thoughts on this because I know that she's been planning for this particular commission trainer to be there to talk about housing issues.
We made that formal at our last meeting.
We
It's part
did.
of
I
the
think.
minutes.
Mhm.
Can you since I wasn't here, Mary, could you tell me what that was from the last
Yes,
meeting?
uh, Tosin and Commissioners Akbula and Gaskin are our training subcommittee, and they presented the idea of having training be a component of every one of our monthly meetings. And they laid out an agenda that involved ethics training for this meeting and housing training for the next meeting, and we approved that outline.
Okay. I guess proposal, something to think about. Commissioner, after I agree with you that uh, I, I feel as though as a commission, we need to expend more of our energy and efforts at dealing with this power that we were given by the county to enforce the county fair housing law. I would suggest, however, that perhaps this is something that we ideally have a further discussion on at our next monthly meeting after we have hopefully this housing training and hopefully this presentation from the Office of Law with respect to procedures for handling housing discrimination complaints. Because I'm hoping that once we have that bit of extra information, we'll be in a better position to decide what do we need to do to communicate to the county that we have this power, that we're here to help with this particular issue. And I think maybe we need to talk about whether we need to put on some events and just explain to people what we can do in terms of housing, because that's clearly the most authority that we have that we were given by the county to enforce the county's fair housing law. So I would suggest that we place on the agenda for the next month to have a discussion of what further steps do we want to take as a commission to uh, communicate to the community that we have this fair housing authority, and try to come up with a plan for how do we proceed to do that. because it's hard to imagine that that the housing discrimination isn't happening out there. It's just for whatever reason, either it's getting resolved before it gets to us. Hopefully that's the case, or maybe there's a communication issue that people in the community don't know. So I would suggest we do that. Let's do the training. Let's find out what the Office of Law recommends with respect to the procedural rules. But then perhaps even before then, we could explore the possibility of maybe we can't do it before then, of setting up a separate session to discuss some of these topics that sort of fall out of the hate bias conference that we had in February. And I know, Alana, one of them is dialogues on race. I mean, in my mind, that jumps out as one of the more critical ones that we need to start having.
Right. We've been trying to, yeah, and it's just taking it's a bit of a load because they're various aspects from housing to education to just very health disparity. So that has been a lot. And I just need to ask for clarity because I do need to get back to Michael Batsaris with the Ethics Commission. Is he a part of that October agenda? You mentioned the Office of Law. We mentioned housing and. But I didn't hear, and I want to just for clarification.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I think we absolutely need him to come in, and hopefully we can straighten out the ethics issues with finish up the ethics training, so we can go ahead and have that meeting with Michael Butzeris. So, commissioners, we're an all volunteer commission. I don't know what the limits of the load that we can carry. At this point, what we're contemplating doing in October is having a training session with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, and we're planning on having a monthly meeting on October the 22nd. So the question is, I would definitely like to, Mary, if you could make sure to, I would like to discuss this issue of housing, what we're going to do about our housing authority and dealing with those issues after we get information from the Office of Law and hopefully this training. But what do we think we could handle a third commission-wide meeting or event in the month of October? We're doing the monthly meeting, we're doing October training. I'm asking you that question honestly. I know we all are engaged in a lot of activities and have a lot of other commitments. So that's a question. Can we even do that in October? I'd like to start on this as soon as possible. I'm just not sure we have the capacity collectively to arrange for another meeting. I'd like to open up the floor and have a discussion on that issue.
That's a heavy load for the commission. Sorry, Mary, go ahead. I apologize.
I just said this commissioner can't.
Yeah, it's a heavy load. It is a heavy load. And even though I'm a proponent of as much dialogues as possible, I think you're the Human Relations Commission, you as commissioners are community leaders, you have your full-time job, and you're volunteers. So it is a heavy load. Now the mediation unit and all that other active and de-escalation, if you all wanted that, that's fine. If not, the county, I'm sure we can work something out as far as the Healthy Dialogues group facilitating that. I was just putting that as an option because they would do the whole programming of that. But as far as just having the discussions on race or our own commission version of dialogues on race, that's going to take some planning. It took several months to plan that hate crimes forum. It was a collaborative thing, and a lot fell on me, and I'm not going to lie about that, which is good because it's that important for the community. But it just took a lot for the folks who were working on it, and it took a lot of planning. It wasn't something that you could do just one time,
I would recommend that we try to get our training with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. And then at our October meeting, in addition to what we've already got on the schedule, let's make sure we set some time aside to deal with this issue of housing discrimination. What can we do in terms of that particular authority that we have? But then also on the agenda, I think we need to have a discussion about, can we start setting something up? Personally, I like the idea of having a second meeting a month where we, especially in light of the fact that we're doing these meetings over Zoom, where we open the floor up to the community and have an ability to interact with the community, whether it be a very structured program or a loose program where we just kind of have a conversation and get input from the community as to what their concerns are. That's something we can discuss at our next meeting. So that would be my proposal, to let's talk about housing at the next meeting. What are we gonna do about housing? And then let's talk about what are we gonna do about the follow-up to the Hate Bias Conference and the conversations that we need to have with the community to get the community input. That would be what what I'm proposing right now. Is anybody willing to entertain such a motion? Or do we need some more discussion?
Does this need to be a motion? We've made several agenda decisions already, and we've just been labeling them. I've been labeling them as decisions.
It doesn't have to be a motion. I just want to get feedback and buy-in from the commissioners, and I thought that might be the easiest way. Doesn't have to be a
Sold.
motion.
In agreement.
Mark, you're on mute. Still on mute.
I would agree with Roberto on that.
Okay. Eugene?
I'm with you.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and do that. Alana, what we could do is we can communicate to the folks at the discussions group that we're not going to be able to do anything in October, but we're going to discuss what we can do as a follow-up to the Hate Bias Conference, and perhaps that's going to include collaborating with them. But at this point, I don't know yet. I think certainly we're willing to entertain any suggestions they might have as to how we can collaborate and work together on some of these issues which we care about.
Right. And I know as I said, I believe I said the conflict resolution active listening group, they have picked an October date. So I believe they will proceed. But what I will do is I will let the commissioners know about the date, and maybe if you so choose to
Available.
attend their meeting, that they will take the lead as the host of, no problem. So I think that particular group will rock and roll and move on.
Okay.
The de-escalation, I'm not sure about, but I do think that de-escalation has wonderful information for the community at large, and I think it would be helpful. But it's it's a lot, so that would take time as well. So I will let them know on Friday. Thank you.
Sure. Alana, last item under your update segment here is the issue with hearing process update from Lori Blair from the Office of Law, but I think you covered it.
I've already covered that. The Office of Law representative who will be talking at the October meeting will be Lori Blair, and she has agreed graciously to do so. And Robin is the name of the housing representative who will be talking about housing, but I forgot her last name, so I apologize, Ms. Robin. And then, of course, Michael Botsaris for the ethics component of the October. You all will have a full agenda for October.
Very good. Moving right along with the agenda, Commissioner Dodoni, the floor is yours to discuss anything you want to share with us regarding county council updates.
This looks a bit like a hangover from the last meeting agenda. I have not been attending the council meetings. The Resolution 2220 to include the Human Relations Commission in the county charter was approved on June 1st by a vote of 6 affirmative, 1 negative. And that will be on the November 3rd ballot. And if it is approved on the November 3rd ballot as a change to the county charter, it will go into effect 30 days after the election.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Dodoni. Next, we have on the agenda committee reports. I've got here community engagement. Commissioner Pratt, can you hear us? Are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still here.
Do you have anything to report to us with respect to, I see here, Women's Empowering Initiative. Actually, is that your item? I see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be hosting a women's empowerment engagement called My Sister's Keeper. It's gonna be a 8-week initiative. 15 women from public and low subsidized housing communities will be the participants. We will have 15 mentors that follow them. This was birthed out of the need for different resources that was identified during COVID. Not limited to mental health, financial literacy, conflict resolution, goal and vision planning, moving from your past to your present. The goal for this exercise is to promote positive change through building relationships from lived experience. So we will have a graduation and it will last from September 26th to November 14th.
So now we know what you're going to be doing on your Saturdays.
Yes.
Okay. Um, well,
The, I,
go
so the,
ahead.
I, the idea for that, I think I should share this. So many times we advocate and we rally and we say, where are the people affected? But it's not many people are engaging and helping boots on the ground, the people that are affected to understand why it's important to come to county council meetings, why it's important to gauge in the general assembly legislation. We just saying, where are they? But we need to go out and get them. So this initiative and program is part of letting the people in the communities know that we are here and we will walk with them through the situation to get from dependency to self-sufficiency.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Commissioners, any comments or that we want to share? Okay.
Yeah,
Please keep us. Go ahead, Mary.
thank you so much, Commissioner Pratt. If I understand correctly, this is a closed program for the women participating in it. Hearing their voices would be incredibly valuable. Is there a portion of the program that will involve our opportunity to hear from them about their stories, their needs, their dreams, their exercise of their own power?
So as we build a relationship with them to give them the opportunity to feel comfortable enough and trustworthy enough, because the big problem is that they don't come out because they don't trust the process, right? So I feel like once we finish the program, we will offer them the opportunity to speak with people who may want to speak with them and hear a little bit about, their story. Absolutely.
I think the commission might be involved, have a, this may be within our scope because there are barriers to access, barriers to participation, barriers to being heard. We could be involved in removing those barriers. Let's take something as simple as testimony before the House of Delegates or the Senate. If you've got to get home to fix dinner and feed your children, if you have to be at home to help them with schooling, you can't sit in a meeting with an undetermined agenda. Go in there at 2 o'clock in case they call you and still be there at 11 o'clock at night. That's a privilege for people like me.
Thank you, Commissioner Didoni. Commissioner Pratt, if you think there's an opportunity for us to share information with or help educate the group of women that you're going to be working with respect to what the Human Relations Commission can do, certainly let us know. I mean, I feel that one of our missions is to communicate to the people of Anne Arundel County that we're here and we're here to help to the degree that we can. But nevertheless, if there's anything you think we could do to help, please keep us posted.
I absolutely will. A lot of these women do have housing issues, but because they feel like the system doesn't work for them, they
Right.
don't feel comfortable enough coming forward. And
Right.
that's another purpose for this program and initiative.
Right. Well, thank you for taking that on. This is great.
You're welcome.
I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda. Tony, was this something you were going to cover, the Maryland Attorney General's COVID-19 Access to Justice Task Force? Or is that mine? I'm not sure. Alana, are you there?
I think that might
I am here. Thank you so much. So ask the question again. Unfortunately, Mother Nature called. So
No worries. Or Tony, you started to speak when Alana came on. What were you saying?
I thought you asked me, was that mine or yours? I said it was yours.
Okay. So the Maryland Attorney General's has convened a COVID-19 Access to Justice Task Force. I happen to sit on that particular task force. I'm on the Life and Health Planning Committee, and it is exploring possible legislative changes and other changes in regards to how people in our state interact with the court system, medical providers and attorneys with respect to preparing advance directives, power of attorneys, wills, and dealing with probate. And obviously, this has become an important issue because a lot of people are suddenly getting ill, ending up in the hospital, and some of them are dying. And so, what the Attorney General is doing with our particular committee is trying to see what barriers we could deal with and what recommendations we might be able to make to the General Assembly with respect to simplifying the process so that families and people affected by COVID-19 can do some life and health planning in terms of advanced directives and other documents in case something should happen to them. And I'm on that task force. I'll continue to report back on what I hear from them. They're absolutely dealing with some civil rights issues, which I believe we care about because fundamentally, at the heart of it is the issue of access to justice. So there are a lot of barriers that if you don't have the money to afford a lawyer, suddenly your choices are very limited. Yes, you can get some assistance from legal aid, and there's a variety of low bono organizations out there that will provide certain services at a reduced fee. But nevertheless, who are the people that are being impacted the most? Black people, brown people, and other poor people. And so we're trying to see what we could do to improve that situation. As part of that task force, the Attorney General is dealing with all other kinds of issues, including consumer complaints and dealing with debt collection. That's a big issue, and it's going to become an even bigger issue with respect to medical debt collection. And it's a matter of the Attorney General and other elected officials are trying to see what can be done to try to improve the situation, given that there's all these issues and problems that have existed with the system were there before, but now they're being exacerbated by the COVID-19 crisis. So, but I will continue to report. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda with respect to committee reports. Department of Health Focus Group, Hispanic and Latinos, COVID-19. I saw the flyer. Alana, can you speak to that issue? I can't hear you.
I would prefer that you feel free to talk because I have actually spoken a lot today. Okay. And then you know the flyer.
Help me fill in the gaps. But so the Department of Health is going to be conducting some focus groups with the Hispanic and Latino community, looking to see how they've been affected by the COVID-19 crisis. And I think they're going to explore things that they could do to address the health inequity situation. As you all probably know, especially here in Anne Arundel County and Annapolis, the Latinos have the highest rate of infection and African Americans have the highest mortality rate. So although more Latinos are catching it in proportion to the number of Latinos that exist in the county, which is bad because it's not, COVID-19 is not a fun thing to have. Even more so, African Americans are the mortality rate is frightening, and the county is working hard to try to address those issues. I don't know what they're doing with respect to reaching out to the African American community. I know they are making efforts, but I've been involved with respect to their efforts reaching out to the Latino community, trying to educate and trying to help people get through this situation with the pandemic. And they're doing this focus group, and I can keep you apprised of what happens, but that's about all I know because it hasn't happened yet. Any questions?
Would say there is going to be a focus group as well. My understanding for the African American community as well.
Okay.
That was something that Commissioner Pratt had asked, and so I wanted to make sure that I was clear, on the record for my understanding and reaching out to the health department.
Okay.
And then just to touch base and just say this, I thought it was interesting on this topic of the recent study. There's a Forbes article that came out today on Latino, Black, and Native American households face disproportionate money problems during coronavirus pandemic. And it actually had a poll study results. And I just thought it was interesting as to the impact of this health crisis upon so many of us. Really, all of us in our communities are impacted. Everyone, but I thought it was an interesting article, so I just wanted to say that if anyone wanted to take a look at it, I sent it to the commissioners, and that was all.
Thank you, Alana. Next on the agenda, Mary, education. Do you have anything to report with respect to the Board of Education and all the online schooling and everything else?
Changes daily. Um,
Well,
yeah, it just changed.
keep us apprised of anything we need to try to jump in and.
The report from the Joint Commission, the Joint Initiative to Eliminate the Opportunity Gap, has been delayed. It is being prepared under the leadership of Dr. Jennifer Purcell, subsequent to her changing offices within the county executive's office. I do not have a due date for that. Um, and it should be out in October. The plan is it will go to the county executives in October. The budget is still in question. The action that had been anticipated by I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the entity at the state level, but it's the treasurer, the president, the governor, and the comptroller
Right, they
has
approve
been
the spending
punted.
decisions, right?
So we don't know what budget cuts are coming, and we don't know if we can go back to school. If the students, there's an effort to get the students back in school. As you know, that we are unable to get special education teachers decline to return to the classroom, and I'm having absolutely no judgment on that. That absolutely none.
Any,
I'll keep you posted, but really, I have to stay in touch by reading the news, the Capital Gazette every week, every day, every morning.
okay.
That's it.
Any commissioners have any questions?
I have one comment about a education issue that's been brought up that is an equity issue. We have a PTA member in Monarch Academy who was the vice president of diversity on her PTA that has been removed for speaking out about diversity and is now under a gag order from a lawyer to continue to speak out. And it is founded complaints about what she's saying.
Thank you for raising that, Commissioner Pratt. I wonder if this body can be involved in that. If I were to have been involved with that person, I would have brought that to this body. But Monarch Academy's relationship with the AACPS is interesting. Unlike the truly private schools, the employees at the school are considered county employees. So AACPS does have some leverage over the schools. But the issue you're raising with the PTA, we do not have the as far as I know and have explored so far, the county doesn't have leverage over the PTA organizations. I know of no mechanism for our involvement other than a complaint to come in to Ms. Dennis and for her to make that decision. And I know we've had these kinds of discussions before. The school system's cut out of the county as already. I invite
Mhm.
Alana to
Uh,
say.
If there's
I'm
a,
a former
if I may, if there's a complaint of
I'm a former
discrimination
school board
involvement.
member. I
Oh,
served on
sorry
the
to
school
hear you.
board for 10 years.
Let's hear
Uh,
it from Commissioner Peterson.
Okay.
Mary is right. The school board has and the county council and the executive have no power of the national
Right.
PTA. It's a separate governing organization. And the way that could be addressed would be for the Anne Arundel County Council of PTAs. If she would lodge a complaint with them, then they would have to look at it. But I don't see any way that we could get involved with that.
And I was actually going to just concur and say that I have no authority for clarity for the record and to review the school system's concerns. You know, they have a separate EEO manager, equity office, diversity related program, separate and distinct from the county, Anne Arundel County government.
Do you have anything else to say, Commissioner Pratt? Any other questions regarding this issue?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. I want to try one more time. I think we're having a technical problem and we can't get the commissioners that are phoning in to participate. But Khaled, can you hear us? Can you try to take your phone off of mute? Yeah, okay, he's calling. Looks like he's calling in again. Let's see if this works. And the reason I wanted to hear from Khaled is because he's also on the training committee with Faye, and Khalid?
Yes, can you hear me now?
All right, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Glad
finally.
you joined us. Good to hear from you. So
Thank you.
yeah, I wanted to reach out to you well, first of all, I don't know if there are any comments you want to make regarding the meeting. We've talked about quite a bit, and we've had these technical issues. Any comments you want to make or any questions?
No, thank you so much.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to report to us with respect to the training? I know next at the October meeting, where hopefully we'll be able to make this housing training happen.
I got extremely busy with schoolwork and with the kids staying at home. And really, Faye, she is the one who is handling everything a lot better than me. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Khalid. It's good to hear from you. I'm glad you're able to call in and listen in on our meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next item. PACE award process nominee. Commissioner Peterson, do you want to address that issue?
Short and sweet. We are not having a breakfast this year. There will be no, therefore, awards given out in any categories. The committee has decided to put a full page ad in the Capitol and the Sun commemorating the day, and hopefully we can work with, if not both papers, at least the Capitol Gazette, maybe to do a pictorial uh, uh, essay that people would send in what they did virtually to commemorate the day, and we'd have that for people to see. But there will be no breakfast given the fact that we're in stage 2 of recovery from COVID, and even with stage 3, we could only have 100 people at most at a breakfast.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Peterson.
Welcome.
Keep us moving down the agenda. We're almost at the end here. Good and welfare. Do we have any announcements? Okay. Hearing none. I think our next meeting is on October 22nd. That day is on a Thursday, so we'll be meeting on Thursday, October 22nd at 6 p.m. Correct, Alana?
Yes, absolutely. Affirmative.
All right. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Can I add one thing here?
Absolutely, Mark. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just in terms of how other civil rights organizations are handling this, the MLK committee is having the Fannie Lou Hamer Awards in early October. I forget which Saturday morning it is, as a Zoom session. So just to let you know.
Could you email us whatever information you have regarding that?
Yep, I will.
Thank you so much. Okay. So, all right, I think we have a motion on the floor to adjourn. I think I was looking for a second. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. We're adjourned, and that is it for the Human Relations Commission meeting on September 17th, 2020. Thank you very much. If anybody in the public needs has any questions, please connect with our website, and there's an email there. I believe there's a phone number, and if you have any questions regarding what we do and how we try to help the community, please go ahead and connect with us. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.